Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. I know I said I was taking a hiatus, but I got the urge to make this video because I have talked about several times going off of psychotropics, big pharma drugs, specifically like mental health drugs. And I wanted to get on here and share resources for how to do that, and also just tell you a little bit about that process and what that looked like for me, just to support anyone who wants to do that ultimately, and just let you know that like the process. So I started studying like radical mental health for my master's work, and it was that first semester of my program that I decided to go off of everything. And so the big things that I want to share with you are the Fireweed Collective. All of these links are going to be in the description box below. I've put all of the resources that you're going to need and things to explore. So Fireweed Collective, at the time it was called the Icarus Project, but now they go by the Fireweed Collective, and they're a radical mental health collective. And they have amazing resources. They have this one PDF, hi Lucy, of like a harm reduction guide to going off of psychotropics or pharmaceuticals. And I used that, that was like my Bible at the time. I read that shit from front to back. I followed all of their recommendations because going off of all of those drugs was very important to me. So I put the link for that below. I also put their website. They have tons of resources. They also have a really great PDF form resource for responding to crisis, other folks who are in emotional distress. I've taken several. They used to do phone calls, or like we would do like Zoom calls. This was like way long time ago. But I've taken a lot of their, several of their online courses. Specifically around like the nervous system, but what was it like, whether like what it looks like when you go into fight or flight, para something nervous system. I don't remember, but yeah, that was all stuff I used for my work and for like the mental health work I did in LA. And also de-escalation tactics of just how to support folks in crisis. So that's the Fireweed Collective. Highly recommend, if you or someone you know wants to go off of psychotropics or pharmaceuticals, use that resource. It's available for you. It's absolutely essential. So besides that, I want to talk a little bit about my process, and then I'll talk about some of the other things that I listed below. So I had the harm reduction guide, and I really followed what they said. I read and immersed myself. It was much like the free birth. I immersed myself in stories of other people who had been successful, what their relapses look like, if they had relapses after going off of pharma, what their, community or support looked like. And I made sure that I was prepared to go off of meds because it was something I really wanted to do. I did work with a doctor and a nurse practitioner in the same office in Tucson. I did end up in the ER at one point because of side effects. I got like stress blisters that were like this big on my back. They were disgusting. But that was in the process of going off of stuff. What I did, because I was like around new people, I was in my master's program, so I had my cohort around me, which was like 5 people at the time, and then my professors, and my family. So what I did was I went in. Much of the times when you're withdrawing from medicine, the symptoms are the same as like when you start taking the medicine. And so I went in and found all of the medications that I was on. I compiled a document that had every medication, the milligrams I was taking, the way that I was weaning off of them, and that was at the direction of the doctor and the nurse practitioner. The doctor did not want me to go off of everything, of course, because then they don't make as much money. But he actually stopped working with me and put me in the care of his nurse practitioner. And then she and I that's what I mean when I say that I like slipped through the cracks, is that she approved me going off of everything, and helped me with the dosage of weaning off. But like I said, the doctor wanted to keep me on, like, I think he wanted to keep me on Concerta, which is a lower dose form of Adderall, and I had been addicted to Adderall for, you know, good 20 years at that point. I really wanted to go off 20 longer than that. So anyway, I compiled all of that, and then I wrote all of the symptoms, and then I handed it out so I did that for all the medications. I put the medication, the milligrams I was on, the way that I was weaning off of them, and then the symptoms to look for in case I was having some sort of reaction. The stress hives on my back were one of those things. I don't remember what came out of that ER. I think they just eventually went away on their own. But yeah, they were ginormous blisters. I thought they were going to scar. They didn't scar. And so anyway, I gave that to all the people around me. I emailed them to, you know, family, friends, away from me as well. And I just really I kind of forced the support of those around me, because it was something that I was absolutely hell-bent on doing, and I wanted to be safe. So I, you know, compiled an email, and it was all like, I'm going to be doing this. I would, you know, love your support. This is why I want to do this. Just, you know, letting people know, like, what I was doing. I wasn't manic at the time. I think up until very recently, honestly, every time I really follow my own path, I still have a fear of people calling me manic, and that's why I've had to cut off absolutely everybody, because people who knew me when I was on medication, people who knew me when I went through this process, they don't know who I am as a whole person anymore. You know, it was like you knew me in this season, but like you never knew me before I went on the meds, you know what I mean? And then those who were also a part of that trauma had to be cut off, because it's like, no matter what I've done since that point in time, they will always remember that and see that and want to see it again, right? Like my family. So anyway, at the time, they were great. That's what I needed. I actually did get the stress hives when my mother was in town visiting, so I'm not sure the correlation of that relationship was, but that was a long time ago, like 10 years. I also want to say, so I did that. Everybody knew that was my process. I think I kept up with like letting people know like if the plan had changed, but like I laid it all out for those around me, knowing, you know, this is the milligram this week, this is how long this process is going to take for each drug that I was on, and I was on like 8 at the time. So I'm pretty sure I got that prompt to do that from the harm reduction. I haven't looked at that document in a really long time, but that was my process. So if you are going to be doing this, I would highly suggest doing that, letting other folks, you know, before I realized I didn't have a mental illness, I spoke at a couple NAMI things, and I was kind of a spokesperson. I even went back to the mental institution in Wisconsin and like talked to the patients. I've been a big advocate ever since it happened to me, but like in different chapters, right? Like increasingly radical as the time has gone on. But that's part of the reclamation of agency that I talk about with radical mental health, and other people do too. You know, the Icarus Project at the time had that saying, their slogan was navigating the space between madness and brilliance, right? And so there's tons of people who have shared their story, tons of people who participate in radical mental health things, who are medicated, who aren't medicated, but just really have a different approach to the stigma of mental health. So that's some of the resources I've also put below if you feel inspired to, you know, get support that way by just seeing some other things. I think I listed 3 different groups. So there's Mind Freedom. I talked to some folks from Mind Freedom when I was doing my research. The guy I talked to is in Alaska. I've talked to some folks who have set up like these safe refuge places for people to go and like go off of their drugs, and like, you know, people support them through it. There's like cabins and shit. I've talked to people who have founded those. I think that was through Mind Freedom, if I remember correctly. And then I've also talked to folks at the Icarus Project, and then did the stuff with the Fireweed Collective. And then, so there's Mind Freedom, and then there's Mad Pride. It just is like a movement. Again, that's really just people being more open-minded and being prideful of their quote-unquote madness, whatever. Neurodivergence is now a word that we have at this time that, you know, wasn't really a thing back then. So people celebrating their differences and their, you know, neurodivergence, neurodiversity, right? And then there was also Mad in America, which is an article-based website. It has a lot of resources. When I went to the website, I was like, there's a couple articles. I think I put one about radical mental health. It's a good overview of like what that means, talking from peers. Peers are people who have been through this system at one point or another and support other people. I have a peer certification as well. But a lot of these folks within all of these resources are peers. These are folks who have been through this, have gone off their own drugs, have supported others through it, have created these response teams, you know, people who do this work all over the place. But anyway, when I went to the Mad in America website for this article, the radical mental health one, I was like, oh, I remember this website, and I had submitted some poems long time ago, and so I was like, oh, I wonder if they're still there, and they are. So I went ahead. I have 2 poems, Blossom and Transform, that are listed on the Mad in America website, and I did put the links for each below. Blossom is also in a queer book that my friend Kai got published. It's a compilation of like a ton of artists and queer folks, and that poem is there too. Blossom was like a poem that really started my decolonizing journey in the sense of relationships, my queerness, my conditioning, like my really like Western white heteronormative conditioning. Blossom is a poem that really questioned that, and kind of reclaimed some shit for me. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. I know it's a little long-winded, but if you or someone you know are going to be doing this, if it's something that you're interested in, going off your meds, or if you just want to find some more support for whatever it is you're going through, or a loved one or whatever, these resources are incredible. I know I have talked about going off my meds, and I didn't want to just it wasn't an irresponsible thing. It was something that I had planned and organized and researched about, and you know, for a long time. I recommend getting as much information about anything that you decide to do, like no matter what, even if it's just like buying a brand of something, I don't care. I don't think that these big decisions, or I don't think that any of this is something to be taken lightly. The decisions I've made have always been really supported by lots of learning, unlearning, research, professionals, community. So yeah, I just wanted to let you all know that's what that looked like for me. And again, all of those resources are below. So thanks. Have a good one.